Hello everybody and happy Sunday. I am here to answer the questions that you've asked over the last week about these 4 practice tests. Each video can only last 15 minutes. I'm going to try and be concise and quick, but I'm going to start with test 1 and then work from there. If you can get out or open up the 7th and 8th grade books, that would be helpful. Also, the 9th grade book might be helpful as well. So I've written down the questions and I'm just going to go through one by one, the ones that were asked. Question 1 about the stomach. Which term best describes the stomach? So we go back and we look at definitions. Cells are the basic building block of the human. Now I'm going to say like the human body, right? So we have cells that make up, many cells make up tissues, many tissues make up organs, and many organs make up organ systems. So this has muscle and blood vessels, and it has cells in it. So obviously it is an organ. And use the information in the diagram to explain your answer. Well, exactly what I said. We know it has cells and we know it has muscles. Muscles are made of tissue. So that means cells make up tissue. Tissue makes up organs or muscles. So that's how you would explain your answer for that one. B. Red blood cells and muscle cells are found in the wall of the stomach. Explain how the structure of the red blood cell relates to its function. It has a dip in it, and because it has a dip, that will increase the surface area. If you want to understand more about blood, in the 8th grade book, you can look on page 36. And in the 7th grade book, you can look on page 34. But this idea, so why red blood cells are round because they are what carries the oxygen, and we have exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen, and they have a little dip in them, and that increases the surface area. And they also, why are they that shape? Well, they need to go through the blood vessels. They need to be able to fit if there's a blockage or something. So the round shape makes them easy to go through. They don't have a nucleus because that increases the amount of space for them to do gas exchange. So now let's talk about the idea of muscles. And I think for some reason people are struggling with this concept. And the question for this is, explain how the structure of the muscle cell is related to its function. So what do muscles fundamentally do? They contract and they relax. I mean, if we're talking about cardiac, smooth, or even skeletal muscles, that is their basic function, contracting and relaxing. So what about its structure relates to that? If you look here, there's many different ways of representing the muscles, but we first have smooth muscle. Again, we can see that they are fibers and they are long, they are muscle, so they are strong. So they are long fibers, and that they are strong, long fibers, which help, of course, with contraction and relaxing. So that is how the function is related to their design. Long, strong fibers that can contract and relax. Now let's move on to the next question. I think the next question here was 2C. A bottle of perfume is left in a room. The top is taken off of the bottle. The smell of the perfume eventually fills the room. What is the name of this process? This process is called diffusion. Now, if you look in, I believe, the year 8 book, diffusion starts on page 70 and 72, and then it goes into Brownian motion. So diffusion happens in anything that flows, so it can happen in liquid, and it can also happen with gases. What is happening? Diffusion means that something with a high concentration is always going to move to the lower concentration. And that happens in water, and that also happens in air. So by the perfume bottle, we have a high concentration of the smell. It will then venture out and go to a lower concentration, it'll move across the room. We can increase this by adding heat. That's why, like, if your mom is cutting up fruit or something, eventually you may smell it. But if she starts boiling something such as soup, you might smell it a lot quicker because the particles have a lot more energy and they are diffusing into the air faster. You can Google some more videos if you want to understand diffusion, but it's just the idea that a high concentration of stuff will move to a lower concentration filled area. I went over question 3 in the previous video, and I really don't know how to go over it anymore. So with this, I'm going to post some more videos and resources to try and help you understand frequency, pitch, and things like that. So let's move on to question 4. With question 4, we are using key, and we need to know what are the general characteristics of certain animals. And we can learn that by reviewing our Stage 7 book, starting on page 60. We did spend some time going over this in class. So we can look at arthropods. So if we look at arthropods, what are the two big things that make them different? So if you also look on page 64, you will see how things are set up. Within arthropods, we have insects and arachnids, crustaceans, and myriapods. So we know that we're going to be dealing with myriapods, and we are also going to be dealing with insects. So when we start, we're going to think about what do they have differently. And so does the animal have 6 legs or 3 body sections? So that is something that would divide an insect from a myriapod. So we could write that in A. So the idea is, like, do bees and ants have 6 legs? Yes. And do myriapods have 6? No. So then this would go here about the legs. No, going here. So what is the feature between a centipede and a millipede? Well, it has to do with the number of legs and the segments. So does it have 1 pair of legs per segment? Yes or no. And with ants and bees, it is, do they have wings? So that's one thing that is different between ants and bees. This is a more difficult one, I would say. I haven't seen one like this on a test before. But just think about how they're different and what question you could have a clear yes or no answer to about the feature of that animal. Next, we are going to look at question 7. Angelique finds information about the stopping distance of cars. The stopping distance is the distance a car moves after the driver wants to stop the car. So we have the speed, the thinking distance, and then the braking distance. So Angela calculates the stopping distance for a car with a speed of 32 miles per hour. Here is her calculation. So what did she do? So we see 32 miles an hour, 6 plus 6. So then you just follow that formula to find the speed that she did, which was 21 meters for thinking and 75 meters braking distance. And I think that gives you 96 meters. So let's look at the next one. Describe the pattern in the information for thinking distance. Complete the sentence. As the speed increases by 16 km per hour, the thinking distance. So what do we see? What is changing here? Because this is the increasing by 16 kilometers per hour. That we are 6, 9, 12, 15 that means that it is increasing by 3. You could also say that it is increasing equally. So as the speed increases, the thinking time also increases equally. That is question 7. Now, predict what the thinking distance will be at 128 kilometers per hour. So if we follow the same pattern, then we just would put this here, and then what is next after 21 when we add 3 is 24. So the answer would be 24 meters. Looking at the next part of the question, it says that the speed of the car doubles from 32 kilometers to 64 kilometers per hour, and you need to use the below words decrease, doubles, halves, more than doubles, more than halves for the next 3 answers. Make sure you are clear in what we're talking about. So we're going to talk about thinking distance, braking distance, and stopping distance. So make sure you're looking at the correct column for each one. So what happens in the thinking distance from 32 to 64? So we're here, but the thinking distance is going to be, it doubles, right? From 6 to 12. So we're talking first about that. So the answer is doubles. What happens to the braking distance? So now we're here, from here to here. And we went from 6 to 24. Now we know that's more than 12. And there's nothing more than, it doesn't decrease. It's more than 12. It doesn't decrease. That's what a half would be. So it's more than double. So the next one is more than double. And what happens to the stopping speed at the same one? So now we are remembering that the stopping speed was the thinking speed plus the braking distance, or the thinking distance plus the braking distance. So we have 12 plus 36, and what is that? That is more than doubles. So the third one again would be more than doubles. Now let's look at question 12. I need to post, I think, a video to help summarize this. I'll find one on YouTube, because these are just things that you're going to have to memorize. You can look in the 7th grade book, page 166. The first question, Mercury, Earth, and Mars are 3 of the inner planets of our solar system. Name another inner planet. That would be Venus. So Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars are what we call rocky planets, or the inner planets. They are made from rock. And then we have Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, which are gas planets, which we call the outer planets. And hopefully you know that everything orbits around the sun. In our solar system, everything rotates around the sun. So I want to be clear about that. The next part of it, a camera normally lets light into it for a second. The camera took this photograph that let light into it for 30 seconds. What objects in the sky are making the lines in the photograph? That would be stars. Explain why they look like lines. Because the Earth is moving or rotating, and the stars are staying where they are, and we are rotating, so it makes them look like they are moving. But we are moving. And that is the answer for that.